your only chance for generations. America is backing with overwhelming strength
Guys,
and devastating
if
force.
this works this
End
time,
quote.
it was meant
These
to
were the
be. I just
words of
spent the
American
last 20
President
minutes
Donald J.
talking to
Trump.
myself. Let me cut that real quick. I just spent the last 20 minutes of this thing talking to myself. So, no one laugh at me. We're going to do this again. And we're going to hopefully it works out this time. And it'll make a complete fool of myself. Welcome to the show, guys. This is Poly Playback, where we take a moment, we, pause on the good moments and we laugh at the bad moments a little bit because, can't take life all serious all the time. But today's a serious day. Is Iran gonna fall? Is Persia gonna rise? Let's get into it, all right? What's
Trump,
going
in a
on?
video to social media in the early hours of Saturday morning, announced to the world that the US had launched long-expected strikes against Iran. In the 8-minute video, President Trump made his case for the operation, which the US Department of War labeled Operation Epic Fury, saying that the Iranian regime had long been a threat, not just to the American people and their allies, but to the Iranian people as well, citing the thousands killed in the January protests. Trump further claimed that Iran posed an even greater threat, since they were trying to rebuild their nuclear weapons program and were developing long-range missiles.
Yes, guys, I spent about the last 20 minutes talking to myself, thinking I was live when it was just like a private thing. So now I'm officially live. So if you see my video, like the video, okay? All right, let's get into it.
Missiles capable of striking Europe and America. Finally, he urged the Iranian people to overthrow the government, a repetition of a call he'd made during the protests. Shortly afterwards, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin
Yeah, it's working. Hold on, people. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me set something up. It's working. All right, give me a second, guys. I'll play the video in the meantime.
Netanyahu posted a video to social media reiterating the same points that Trump had made about the threat posed by Iran and also calling on the Iranian people to overthrow their government. Statements from the two world leaders came hours after explosions were first heard in Tehran, where, according to the Iranian news agency Fars, missiles had struck close to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, headquarters. The Associated Press further reported that a strike had happened near the offices of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, indicating that America and Israel were attempting to decapitate Iranian leadership in the initial strike. So, because 2026 has decided that we won't be catching a break anytime soon, let's examine what we know about the strikes, what we don't, and what these attacks mean for the wider region. What we know. Okay, let's start with what we know as of the time of recording. It's just before 2 p.m. Central European time. I just finished my lunch. And multiple outlets reported that the attack began at around 8 a.m. local time in Tehran, which, according to an Israeli security source that spoke with Israel's Channel 12 News, was meant to surprise the Iranians, who wouldn't have anticipated a daytime attack. Nor are they the only ones. Over here at Warfronts, we've been planning coverage for a potential night attack for weeks, and now here we all are giving up our Saturdays on the first sunny day of the year. It's streaming in my window right now. You're welcome.
I will say, I was definitely looking forward to weekend. Well, not looking forward to like I wanted it to happen, but I was definitely expecting, at the very least, getting up in the morning and hearing that something happened. But getting up in the morning over here doesn't mean it's morning over there. So me getting up in the morning and hearing about it, the sun's long been up. So I guess it kind of did happen in the morning. I guess it's the morning somewhere, right?
Like this video? The source also confirms 3 other important details. 1, that the US and Israel had been planning this operation jointly for months. 2, that Israel was going to go all out during this operation, and that Washington was on the same page. And 3, that the initial phase of the joint attack was meant to last for 4 days. American officials who spoke with the New York Times corroborated the idea that Israel and the US would go all out, telling the paper that the bombing campaign would likely be
Does
more
Israel really have any other way of going? All right. And by the way, it's going to be a little bit corny for me for the first couple of minutes because, like I said, I started this about 20 minutes ago before I realized I was doing a private version of it. So I feel a little bit awkward. Let me get back into the rhythm, all right?
extensive than Operation Midnight Hammer, in which US bombers struck key Iranian nuclear sites during the 12-day war. At the moment, it's difficult to get a full picture of all the locations within Iran that were hit because, according to global internet watchdog NetBlocks, the government instituted a near-total internet shutdown. But what we do know indicates that Israel and the US are keeping their word. A source speaking to the Wall Street Journal said that the initial wave of strikes largely targeted military assets to blunt Iran's ability to
See,
respond.
and this is one of those moments where you realize, as big as even America, for example, which why I don't really understand why Iran thinks they could really do much of anything. How in the world that if Israel can't protect themselves from people lobbing bombs at them, right? And all these other military bases all over the place, why would I? Again, I understand a lot of people think having a nuclear weapons is the best way to protect your country, but why in the world would I like call it upon myself? Because that was a lot of the reports that were coming out saying, you know what, they just think they just have to survive it. Let's see about that. Because yeah, who's going to survive this? Because apparently the top guy's already gone.
Symbols of the regime and intelligence targets. The most notable of these included Pasteur Street, a secure area of
Look at
Tehran
that.
that hosts the offices of the Iranian president, the center of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and
Look at
intelligence
that.
leadership, the Supreme National Security Council, and other military institutions. Iranian news agencies also reported explosions in other cities. Isfahan, near the site of a nuclear complex that both the US and Israel struck last year during the 12-day war. Kermanshah, in northwestern Iran, home to an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base, and Shiraz, where the Israelis have alleged Iran has a large underground missile production facility. Al Jazeera reported that a renewed wave of explosions were heard in Tehran at around 1 p.m. local time, indicating that this would be a sustained operation. The outlet, however, couldn't verify the locations of the strikes because of the internet blackout. And that blackout has also made it difficult to get a full picture of the casualties, especially given that Israel and the US were explicitly targeting
even if they
Iranian
told
leadership.
us what's going
Iranian
on, we wouldn't really
state-affiliated
exactly
media, including
understand it too
Tasnim
much.
and Mer news agencies, are reporting that
The
President
whole fog
Masoud
of war
Pezeshkian is
situation.
safe.
Because in this video, I think I jumped ahead a bit on it. They said that the supreme leader is in a safe area.
While Reuters
I don't think it was that safe, because a couple hours ago it came out that Israel is saying that we got him, and so is America.
reported that
got him.
Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been transferred to a secure location prior to the strikes.
I
However,
should have just waited a
an
couple of
Iranian
seconds.
source close to the establishment told Reuters that several IRGC commanders and political officials were killed in the strikes. Israel's Channel 12 appeared to corroborate this report. Citing unnamed security sources, the outlet reported that the strikes had achieved very high success in targeting key senior commanders and that Israel was happy with the initial results. As of the time of writing, Israeli sources indicate that the leader of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, its ministers of defense and intelligence, and its lead nuclear negotiator are all among the dead. We should also note that while Iranian state media has acknowledged that the nation's president, its chief justice, and several other key officials are safe, it has not yet said the same for the supreme leader. With the benefit of hindsight, we also know that Israel has been telegraphing this attack for a while now through their strikes on one of Iran's main proxies, Hezbollah. On the 20th of this month, the IDF launched airstrikes into Lebanon, killing several officials who the IDF accused of planning operations against Israel.
See, and let's be real, when you see stuff like this, like, for example, I think the last time it was in Qatar, when you see even Israel attacking into a country that's basically saying, "Hey, let's be the middleman. We're going to be the people that try to, bring us to peace." Basically, when you see Israel goes down there and drops a bomb in their city, kills one of their citizens, the Middle East is just not a place for people. It's not a place that people should. I don't believe it's a very safe place. I don't believe Israel can be characterized as being a safe place for the last probably 2,000 years, honestly. But when you see what Iran is doing right now, it's not really too crazy and too much of a shock, because at the end of the day, they did the same thing. And to the same point, they attacked a country, and I say a country because it landed on their sovereign land and killed one of their citizens just to get one of the guys that they didn't like. So when Iran feels like they're about to go down for the count, can I really blame them for trying to take everyone down with them? No, I can't. Not one bit.
The
Not one
IDF
bit.
also launched airstrikes on Friday, hours before the attack on Iran, that, according to Ron Ben Yeshai, an analyst at the Israeli outlet Ynet, were intended to blind the organization's detection systems, which were meant to alert the Iranians to the Israeli Air Force's departure for the preemptive strike. Afghan news outlet Tolo News later reported that Israel had carried out additional strikes on Lebanon against Hezbollah targets, which were meant to prevent the group from intervening in the war. All of which leads us to Iran's response. Within hours of the initial American and Israeli strikes, the IRGC announced that it had launched the first large-scale wave of
I
retaliatory
bet.
missile and drone strikes toward Israel.
At everybody and their mama. Sorry I have to say it that way. Iran got up that morning and said, "Oh, really? You chose violence. I'm going to choose violence." And they literally sent a bomb to every. I don't want to over exaggerate, but it seems like they sent a bomb to every single one of their neighbors. You get a bomb, you
Sirens
get a
blared
bomb, you
across
get a bomb.
Israel as the military worked to intercept incoming fire with
And let's be real, can I really blame them? If you know you're going to go down for the count, no one's coming to help you, everybody just stood back and watched it, might as well. Might as well. But that's what countries that do that clearly don't care about their people, just because you're going to go down, just because you may, lose your country, or sorry, lose power or authority, doesn't mean you should just let your people. I'm not saying the people are, in the crosshairs, but there's obviously a chance that that might happen. Doesn't mean you should let your people be in that danger.
preliminary assessments indicating at least 35 ballistic missiles
Clearly not the people who care about their people, so
were
wasting my
launched in
time
Israel
too.
throughout the day. Some missiles were intercepted, others struck open areas, and one person was lightly injured by falling debris. But Iran did not stop at Israel. The IRGC confirmed strikes on American military installations across the Gulf,
Yeah,
including Al Salan Air Base in Kuwait, Al Dhafra Air Base in the
look
UAE,
at that.
Al Udeid
Look
Air
at that.
Base in Qatar, and the US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. Explosions were heard in Abu Dhabi, Kuwait City, Doha, and even
Look at
Riyadh.
that.
Qatar's defense ministry said that it had successfully intercepted Iranian missiles, while the UAE reported one civilian killed in Abu Dhabi after intercepting several missiles. The UAE called the attack a flagrant violation of national sovereignty and said
I
it
bet.
reserves its right to respond in full. Both Bahrain and Qatar also condemned the strikes, with Bahrain calling them treacherous. Footage emerging from the Gulf nations
Look at
shows
that.
what appear to have been
You get up in the morning and you find out this happened in Miami. Like, I feel like this is like a regular thing for the people that live there. Because I think that kind of just comes with being in the Middle East, and that's just crazy to me.
successful hits in Bahrain and Abu Dhabi at a minimum. Critically, those hits did not impact oil or other energy infrastructure, suggesting that Iran has either declined to strike energy targets at this time, or its missiles have been intercepted. According to statements from multiple Gulf states, regional governments may now join the US offensive against Iran. The question now is what other options Iran has to escalate. As we mentioned previously, Israel is actively working to prevent Hezbollah from intervening. We also don't expect Hamas to intervene, given how decisively Israel crippled their infrastructure following the October
Yeah.
7th attacks.
And again, a lot of these countries get their weapons from places like, Russia and whatnot, and they're making a claim that, they're making a claim that, hey, you know what? It's amazing, it's a good system, but every single time we hear a country that has Russian technology or air defense technology, it just seems like, you know what? It's just it's for nothing. Because Iran had the exact same thing. Hold on. Iran had the same thing. Venezuela had the same thing. Where's Maduro right now? And where is Khamenei? Like, that's the whole point. It's like this Russian tech is like a show.
Iran, the Middle East, and so much more. Hi, everyone. Mike Pace here. Thanks so much again for joining us this evening. As
One-way
all
drone
throughout the
strikes in
day,
Iran.
we will continue to bring you these updates all in real time. We heard from the White House that they closed the press lid for
You want to check this one
President
out later.
Trump. So if there is no major breaking news, we won't see him on camera. Maybe tomorrow will be the day that we get another statement from the president on camera. But we'll be keeping an eye on all of those details for you right here on Live Now from Fox. This was the big Truth Social that President Trump put out a little bit more than about 2 hours ago, saying Khamenei is dead, one of the most evil people in history.
And this is one of those things. If it's true, it's going to look good for him. But it's the fog of war. I'm not saying I'm not saying I doubt the president. I'm saying that things can get hazy in the fog of war, and to announce it that quickly when the idea is apparently that he's at the bottom of a rubble, because based on how big the bomb was, there's no way he survived. Evil people have the craziest luck. I'm just going to be honest. Evil people have the craziest luck. They find some way to survive. They're like cockroaches.
History is dead. This is not only justice for the people of Iran, but for all great Americans and those people from many countries throughout the world. They have been killed or mutilated by him and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems, and working closely with Israel, there was not a thing he or the other leaders that may have been killed along with him could do. This is the single greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country. We are hearing that many of their IRGC military and other security and police forces no
This is truly the time for them to do something about it. And again, I'm not the kind of person that really jumps up and tells everybody, America should go out there and spread freedom and whatnot. I really don't believe in that. If the people who are living underneath it don't feel the need to, like, let me choose my words correctly. If the people are there, like for example, give you an example like China. Those people are able to leave. They're able to go where they want to go. The people have money. If they still choose to live in that country, I can't sit there and say, "Oh, look, the oppression. Oh, look, you don't have freedom of this. Oh, you don't have that." And that. No, you chose to live under the CCP, so you get to choose the way you want to live. It's that simple. Countries like let's say Venezuela for a little bit there, uh, North Korea. Those people you could have sympathies for because they keep them weak enough so they can't even do anything about it. So it's not you can't necessarily judge them with the same energy that you'd probably judge the people in China. And because life for them is cool, where a lot of Americans can never consider living in China.
no longer want to fight and are looking for immunity from us. As I said last night, now they can have immunity. Later, they only get death. Hopefully, the IRGC and police
Hmm.
will peacefully merge with the Iranian patriots and work together as a unit to bring back the country to the greatness it deserves. That
Oh yeah,
process should soon be starting in that not only the death
guys, you coming in? Hit that like
of
button for
the
me, all
supreme
right?
leader, but the country has been, in one way, in one day, very much destroyed and even obliterated. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump putting out on Truth Social. We want to showcase.
Oh yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. Definitely some crazy times out here right now. See what else is going on out here. And by the way, you guys, I'm sticking to YouTube for right now until I figure things out when it comes to X, because there's definitely going to be better footage on X, but I tried my best to kind of just stick to this for right now. But let me see what else is going on. Pakistan declares war. Let me see. What else for this? Let me. Who are the? Oh yeah, we got to see what MSNBC is talking about
Let me
because
just read something
the
Donald.
way if you guys have realized lately, the way you feel about the news is highly, highly dependent on who's telling you about it. And if you catch yourself feeling that way about it, you should probably really listen to what they're telling you.
Donald
So
Trump has
I'm not
just
the biggest fan of MSNBC or MS now, as they call themselves, but it's good to hear all the views. Okay, all right, let's check
posted
it
on
out.
his Truth Social account confirming that Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei is dead. This is Donald Trump writing or posting on Donald Trump's account. Quote, Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. This is not only justice for the people of Iran, but for all great Americans and those people from many countries throughout the world that have been killed or mutilated by Khamenei and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems. And working closely with Israel, there was not a thing he or the other leaders that have been killed along with him could do. This is the single greatest
Hold
chance
up,
for
what
the
did he say? Hold up, back up. I missed that spot. Hold up.
tracking systems. And working closely with Israel, there was not a thing he or the other leaders that have been
Okay.
killed along with him could
Oh,
do.
yeah, that's that. This man just said, yeah, we killed him, and he or the other people we killed couldn't do a single thing about it. This is one of those moments where it's just like, do you Do you want your pride or do you want your life? Because listen, this man killed you. Now he's on the internet pissing on your grave.
do.
That's
This
wild.
is the single greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country. We are hearing that many of their IRGC military and other security and police forces no longer want to fight and are looking for immunity from us. As I said last night, now they can have immunity. Later, they only get death.
Mm,
Hopefully, the IRGC and police will peacefully merge with the Iranian patriots and
thank
work
you.
together as a unit to bring back the country to the greatness it deserves. That process should
And that's as much as we could all wish for that. Let's be honest. You can kill as many people you want in that in that country. You're not getting rid of the ideology. I don't see that happening. That's going to take generation after generation after generation. The only thing, and it's going to be weird to say, and I'm personally, when it comes to Middle East, I personally don't believe democracy works in the Middle East. Oh, what about Israel? Like, yeah, Israel's a bit different. Like, come on now. But like, I don't believe democracy works in. I feel like if I'm probably it's probably not the right thing to say. I feel like when it comes to the Middle East, those countries prefer a firm hand, not let's come together and talk for 5 days. It's this is what we want to do. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to force you to do X, Y, Z. Oh yes, that's authoritarianism. But look at the countries that are actually working properly in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia. You think that's a democracy? Yeah. There's princes and queens and kings and all over that place.
soon be starting. In that not only the death of Khomeini, but the country has been in only one day very much destroyed and even obliterated. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world. General Hertling, Iran denies that the Ayatollah is dead. I'm just struck by how much detailed information is in here about our methods, the quote, tracking systems and the highly sophisticated intelligence that he credits with finding Khomeini, and then the public declaration that the plan is for.
So again, this is what I mean by if you start feeling a certain way about what they're telling you, this okay, let's say he is gone. I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh no, how could you do so? But the fact that like she listens to everything that's so far, obviously it's the fog of war, so you can't take everything for facts, but she just listened to the whole entire tweet or read out the whole entire tweet, and her natural response is to say, you know what? But did you hear all the things that he leaked out? Is this stuff that like, I'm pretty sure that's where she's gonna go with this? Or this stuff we should be really talking about? As like, why must you always be in opposition? Why is that always the goal? Why must you always be in opposition? I just don't get it.
Quote, the IRGC military and other security and police forces to look for immunity from us. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, yes, way too much information. And open source intel is claiming some things that allowed the Israelis to strike a target that not only hit the Ayatollah, but others that was in a meeting. And that seems to be an indicator of why the attack was surprisingly held early this morning, which is contrary to the way Israel normally attacks, and that's during the nighttime. But all of that is conjecture right now, Nicole. But I think the president just confirmed some of that conjecture to allow people to connect the dots in terms of tracking mechanisms. When we're talking about the media, I mean, we're about 18 hours into this, and to suggest that a regime and especially the IRGC, which is a rabid military force, would suddenly change their coats and change their colors after 47 years of declaring the United States the Great Satan seems to be a stretch for me.
Exactly,
I don't quite believe.
and that's the same thing I said too. Because he has a point there, and that's the same thing I just said. None of these people are gonna get up the next day and say, you know what? When we were chanting death to America, man, we didn't really mean it. No, not a single one of them are going to do that. If anything, it's probably going to be fear for their lives, but my understanding of how it works over there, it's like, I lose my life for something like this, I might get something on the other side. So I don't really see those type of radicals, because that's what they are. I'm not saying all of them are like this, but those radicals, no, no. If you are still working for a government by choice, okay, that did what they did to 30,000 people, 30,000 of your own fellow citizens, I don't think there's much that's going to change your mind, okay?
Believe that it's been that successful just yet. And you also have an Iranian state which has, uh, you know, you can't say it any other way other than layered redundancy in
Oh
the
yeah,
IRGC, the Baji militias, the intelligence services, the
backup
security
for the
forces,
yeah, backups for the backups
and the controls that frame
for the backups.
external strikes as proof of foreign hostility. That's what the population has been told. They've also seen regime change in every other country, as Ben Rhodes said earlier, Libya, Syria, Iraq. So when you're talking about a population that may even be dissatisfied with their government, can suddenly rally against what it perceives as an external aggressor, that's a little bit of a stretch in terms of logic and reason for right
Yeah,
now.
for now.
One might hope.
Although I think we all would have probably said the same thing for Venezuela. I'm not saying this is going to be a Venezuela situation. In fact, I strongly doubt it will be. But we did say the same thing about Venezuela. Oh, look, he just went in there and grabbed Maduro, and then he's gone, and then he just leaves. It's like, well, what was the point of that? But now we look at seeing how I forgot what the lady's name is who took over from him is running things right now. It's like, well, it looks like it worked out pretty nice, you know? She's releasing political prisoners. She's making overtures to the United States, giving them oil, reworking contracts, and severing contacts with China.
I'd hope it would be true, but truthfully, like I said earlier, hope is not a method.
Director Brennan, Donald Trump also writing about the duration of the bombing campaign, saying, quote, the heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective
Yeah.
of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world, exclamation point.
Why does she sound so disappointed? Okay, you don't have to. You know what? Maybe I should change how I think about this, because maybe I shouldn't expect her to be necessarily. Yeah, you know what? I changed my mind. I changed my mind back. It's the tone of disappointment that I don't understand. If you feel reluctant, if you feel hesitant, but this just sounds like she's disappointed. Let me break off into a slight tangent. Why were there no like mass protests when this happened, when the 30,000 approximate people were offed in Iran? Like the outrage for other countries when great atrocities happen, I get it, but why didn't it happen for Iran? I think it's because people were paid off. But I look at something like this and I'm like, you think with MSN now, and yes, I'm judging the book by the cover, she works there and what and whatnot, why wouldn't she be somewhat more joyful, or at least show concern but not disappointment? Why the disappointment? That's something I just don't understand.
Your thoughts?
The objective of peace. Well, there's going to be a lot of deaths before we're on any better track here. I think what Donald Trump has done now is perpetuating and escalating this escalatory spiral of violence and attacks between Iran on one hand and the United States and Israel on another. For the past 50 years, there has been a lot of strikes on both sides. And during the first Trump administration, if you remember, when the Trump administration took out Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force, the Iranians then decided to send people to try to retaliate. And John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and others needed to have security because of that. I don't see any scenario whereby there's not going to be some elements of the Iranian regime, whether
If we judge what we do to our enemies based on what the responses are going to be, well, that's kind of that's what enemies do, bro. Like, I don't want to be blunt about it, but that's what enemies do, is it not? Is that not how it would be expected? they're our enemies for a reason. Oh, look, we did this to to that guy. You know, he did all this to our Americans. They ordered deaths, caused, killed, taking the lives of a lot of our troops. But after Trump did that, man, our people had to have security. So what? It's just like I feel like with a statement like that, it's almost as if America should walk in trepidation. Nothing wrong with being cautious, but you can't be paralyzed by caution, you know? And that's what this guy sounds like. He's like, well, but what if they do something? No, the way I look at it is you are a top dog in the world. To a certain extent, you have to act like it. You can't sit there and be the top dog, tiptoeing around everything. That makes no sense. That's how people get the gusto to do what Iran did and decided, oh yeah, our best case scenario is to endure a U.S. attack. Endure. What country in the face of this earth and why in the right mind would want to endure an attack by the United States, a military attack by the United States? Makes absolutely no sense.
Whether they remain in place or filter back into society, who are not going to want to retaliate for the death of the supreme leader. I know we talk about Iran being the most prominent state sponsor of terrorism, but that's through our prism. I mean, the Iranians look through their prism and they see a lot of blood on U.S. and Israeli hands, and I do think that this is just going to further intensify. I think these feelings that the United States now is just exerting its muscles, its military might,
As it
along with
should.
Israel.
As it should, because again, to me, this isn't about just, this isn't about Trump trying to flex his muscles. This is about strategic geopolitics. Again, United States ally in Saudi Arabia, and the United States ally in the EU, United States ally in Egypt, Jordan. Again, I think Israel. So yeah, Israel is in here. It's like imagine if this country, another U.S. ally in Turkey. Imagine if the country of Iran is actually able to develop that nuclear weapon. All of these countries are looking for the United States to be the guarantor and bring peace to that region. How do you think that works out when we can't do anything to a country like North Korea? Because North Korea has a nuclear weapon, we kind of just we're hands off. Imagine if Iran was to get something like that. What would we do then? The answer is we wouldn't do anything. And all of these partnerships for oil, for alliances, for the Strait of Hormuz, for trade, all of that stuff are at risk. And that's how it becomes an American issue. Hey, maybe I'm just looking too far and too deep into things, but that's how I look at it. That's geopolitics. We have to remember that a lot of these countries in this area are allies of the United States. We have our military bases out there, and this country right here is trying their best to get a nuclear weapon. Do I think it's going to be something that we have to worry about, as in the U.S. mainland in the next 10, 15? No, I don't. But the ramifications of this country getting a nuclear weapon within that timeline, that could be a big problem.
In a way that really is not just unnecessary, but also reckless and unjustified. So it's, as Mark said, the future here, the near future is, I think, very uncertain. And to think that the IRGC is just going to put their hands up. Besides, there's going to be a lot of bloodletting, internally inside of Iran. Look
Guys, if you enjoyed
Syria.
real quick, if you guys enjoying the video, please show me a like and subscribe. All right, if you like the content,
those who imprisoned the Assyrians were the ones that were then, sought and were targeted with the violence. So the situation inside of Iran, I think, is going to be very, very turbulent, very unstable, very uncertain for quite some time. And if a bombing campaign is going to continue for the weeks ahead, I can just imagine how much destruction and death there's going to be that is going to affect so many innocent Iranians as well as the elements of the regime.
Again, if you want to show the flip side of that, when they killed 30,000 of their own people, when they started writing Trump all over their own cities, obviously it's not going to be every one of them, but when they off 30,000 of their own people and they're trying to get a nuclear weapon, if that's what they do to their own people, what are they going to do to us? And again, I'm not saying it's for a legitimate right here, right now kind of threat for us, but let's not let it get there. That's my view on it, honestly. Oh, that's it. All right. Let me see what else we have going on here. Yeah, I'm gonna stay away from crazy Matto over there. Check this one out. Oh, we're not watching any more.
Good to be with you. I'm Tony DeCoppel.
I don't want to hear anything about. I've had enough of more. What else is going on out here? Hey, it's me. Look at that. Yeah. What else is going on here? What's this? Hit the news. Oh, check this out. What's this?
How did the U.S. and Israel launch a preemptive strike against Iran? Well, they
Okay, listen. Iran's the bad guy, but is preemptive really the word?
used a devastating tactic called time on target. With 2 aircraft carriers and a fleet of destroyers, they calculated the exact math so Israeli jets and U.S. cruise missiles hit their marks at the exact same second. Israel's main goal is assassinating Khamenei and the top leadership, while the U.S. pounded military targets and other high-value industry. But why did Iranian air defenses fail to activate?
Listen. This is the question, man. I don't know if it failed to activate. I really don't know. It's too early, and I always want to preface everything I say in this video. It's too early to really tell. But you see that S-300? When Mother Russia made this, okay? Why is it that it failed in Venezuela and it came again and failed multiple times? Because it failed last year in the 12-day war as well. It failed in 12-day war against Israel and the United States, and now it's failing again against Israel and the United States. You know, you know what? It's either the S-300 isn't what it's cracked up to be, or the United States is that guy. All right.
Because the U.S. fights with a different kind of technology using electronic warfare from space, sea, and air. They completely blinded the Iranian radar just as destroyers launched a swarm of cruise missiles to wipe out the anti-air systems. But wait, the war is still not over. Iran still has thousands of ballistic missiles and drones, so they hit American and Middle East allied bases, and right now, almost everyone is an open target. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a major coordinated military offensive against Iran. Israeli officials have called their offensive Operation Roar the Lion, while the U.S. operation has been referred to as Operation Epic Fury. The message behind the Israel and U.S. strike was clear. This wasn't just a show of force. This was a targeted move to assassinate the supreme leader of Iran. As stated, this wasn't just a random military strike. The ultimate target was the supreme leader's own compound. Missiles dialed in on highly sensitive areas. We're talking specifically around University Street, the Jamhuri district, and near Pastor Street. If you know the layout of Tehran, you know exactly what this means. This zone isn't just another neighborhood. It is the absolute nerve center of the Iranian government. It houses the primary, day-to-day offices of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But here's the catch. The IDF says they got him. An Iranian military says Khamenei.
And again, this fog of war stuff that's going on, I don't know how true this is. We're going to wait till probably the next 2 to 3 days to find out if this is really, truly what went down. But if it is, I'm telling you, it is absolutely wild. And I want the play-by-play. I don't know how this guy has all this information. Maybe he's just pulling out of his rear end. But so far, it is absolutely on point.
Khamenei was not inside his offices when the missiles actually made an impact. The strike may have leveled the compound, but the target slipped away. And right now, the entire region is holding its breath waiting to see what happens next. But reports says Israel says Khamenei's body has been found and he's confirmed dead. Listen, that first wave, it didn't hold back, not even a little. We're talking about a perfectly synchronized, overwhelming assault. The entire goal was to blind and cripple the regime all at once. First, they hit Karaj, just completely ripping through their critical industrial and aerospace hubs. Then, Tehran, the capital, rocked. Any illusion of...
And again, they went from all the way over there, from the outside to the inside, and absolutely, what, none of these things went off? None of these things went off. It's like, listen, if I bought these from Russia, I want my money back. I need my money back immediately, expeditiously.
The safety they had was just completely shattered. They didn't stop there. They struck Qom, sending absolute shockwaves right through the ideological heart of the country. And if you follow this stuff, you know exactly how heavily fortified that area is. Over in the west, missiles literally rained down on Kermanshah. They neutralized those launch sites before the operators could even think about powering up their radars. And then there's Isfahan, the absolute crown jewel of their nuclear and drone programs. Heavily defended, didn't matter. It just lit up the night sky.
Didn't matter.
But how did the US and Israel actually pull off a preemptive strike on Iran? First of all, look at this map. To make this happen, they didn't just rely on local land bases. They brought two massive floating cities right to Iran's doorstep. Down in the Arabian Sea, you've got the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group bearing down on the south and east. And over in the eastern Mediterranean, the biggest, newest ship, USS Gerald R. Ford.
Again, as much as these are, in my opinion, some immoral people, you see something like this set up out your front, outside of your front door, and you say, "Nah, man, I'm good. We're gonna keep doing what we're gonna keep doing." You drive a hard bargain, but the answer is no. I got to give it up to you. You got some balls of steel, or you don't have a brain. It's one or the other. It can't be both, all right?
While Israeli jets flew all the way across the Middle East to reach Iranian airspace, timing was absolutely critical. The moment those IDF jets reached their marks, the missiles were released. And that brings us to the most terrifying, complicated part of this entire operation, the synchronization. Military planners rely on a tactic called time on target. Look at this map. You have missiles firing from submarines, cruise missiles launching from escort ships, and massive payload drops from stealth bombers. They are all deploying from completely different locations at entirely different times. But here is the genius of it. The US military machine was mathematically choreographed so everything impacted Kairaj, Tehran, Qom, Kermanshah, and Isfahan at the exact same second the Israeli jets dropped their
absolute mass confusion, devastation.
Guided bombs.
Oh.
It was designed to be a total systemic shock.
Sorry about that.
And explodes at the same time. A move to collapse the regime instantly. When those munitions finally hit, it was pure shock and awe. But why did the Iranian air defenses fail to activate? Well, to put it simply, the US military operates in a completely different league. Using a highly advanced mix of electronic warfare and cyber operations, coordinated from space to the ground, the coalition was able to inject false data directly into Iranian radar screens. Top-tier Iranian air defense systems, like their homegrown Baver and their Russian-supplied batteries, were absolutely overwhelmed.
So I think they would call that what, like jamming, radar jamming, or like what, missile defense jamming, but from space. Hey, that's Space Force, no joke.
By this electronic assault. But to actually hunt them down, the US set a brilliant trap. They launched hundreds of ABM-160 MALDs, miniature air-launched decoys. To a panicked Iranian radar operator staring at a chaotic screen, these tiny drones look exactly like a massive squadron of F-15s or F-16s screaming toward the capital. With the door kicked wide open, fifth-generation stealth fighters, including both US and Israeli F-35s with possible F-22 Raptors, sliced through the airspace completely undetected. Ultimately, the Iranian air defense network wasn't just suppressed, it was completely dismantled, at least for the time period. Because the Iranian do have a huge firepower. Tehran has fired back. In Operation Truthful Promise 4, a massive wave of missiles and drones just targeted US bases in Israel. Here's the fallout. The UAE's Al Dhafar air base was hit, leaving one dead from shrapnel.
Oh, wow.
In Bahrain, the US Navy's 5th Fleet HQ was directly
Again, I haven't heard anyone else reporting on this. How does this guy even know this?
targeted. Qatar's air defenses successfully wiped out incoming missiles, while Kuwait locked down its entire airspace under heavy fire. Meanwhile, nationwide sirens are blasting across Israel, with massive mid-air interceptions lighting up the skies over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. If you don't want your phone and emails to get compromised like that, you should get this military-grade VPN. Think of Surfshark VPN as your frontline defense.
All right, guys.
It scans and detects
Gotta let the guy make his money, so we're not gonna skip it, all right?
threats, alerting you to thousands of dangerous emails. You can use this web content blocker. All you do is enter the phone's information, pick the types of websites you'd like to block, and then save it. That's it. Your children is protected from any inappropriate or dangerous content. Beyond that, it includes a robust antivirus software to shield your devices from viruses, malware, and tracking by ads, bots, or third parties. Finally, with Surfshark VPN, a single subscription covers not just you, but also your friends or even your entire city if you wanted. Go to our link surfshark.com/AITelly. By buying through the promo link, you will get 4 extra months free, assured by a 30-day money-back guarantee. But how did Israel manage to fly all the way to Iran? At 9 in the morning, Israel launched more than a dozen aircraft, but it's a complicated process. They have to navigate or entirely bypass the airspace of neighboring countries like Syria and Iraq. To avoid hostile air defenses, defense analysts estimate the actual flight distance to reach central Iran is between 930 and 1,240 miles each way.
They definitely need some refuelers. There's no way they're making it all the way over there by themselves. Just
Although these routes may seem straightforward, they'd involve complex planning, including calculations for air refueling and coordinating attack aircraft to pass through Jordan, Syria, and Iraq.
That's crazy.
Israel and U.S. strategy was to attack Iran in 3 waves. The first wave targeted surface air-to-air sites, radar installations, and Iran's air defense headquarters in Tehran, Elam, and Khuzestan. The second wave focused on destroying ballistic missiles, and finally, the third wave targeted military manufacturing industries.
There goes my tax dollars. There they go. There goes yours too.
Kicking down the door. The attack begins not with manned aircraft, but with robotic precision from the sea. The goal is simple: blind the enemy's eyes, their radars, and silence their voice, their command and control. In the Persian Gulf and the Northern Arabian Sea, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, ships like the U.S Thomas Hudner, receive the launch order. The vertical launch system cells hiss open, and moments later, dozens of Tomahawk land attack missiles erupt from the decks. These missiles fly at subsonic speeds, humming the terrain in what we call nap of the earth flight to stay below the radar horizon. They are programmed to loiter and strike simultaneously. Their warheads slam into S-300 and S-400 radar sites and command bunkers. They degrade the integrated air defense system.
If I got these from Iran, if I got these S-300, these missile defense systems from Russia, I want my money back. If I got it from China, I want my money back, okay? I want the stuff that Israel has. Yes, it doesn't catch 100% of everything, but it sure does better than this. If Venezuela had this, Maduro would probably still be in his palace, and his wife wouldn't be in jail with him, you know?
Effectively carving out safe corridors for the pilots who are minutes behind them. 30 minutes past each hour, while the Tomahawks are still impacting, the silver bullets of the U.S. Air Force are already deep inside hostile airspace. These are the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. With the air defense network fractured by Tomahawk cruise missiles, usually fired from destroyers hundreds of miles away, the path is now clear. Now comes the strategic sites like nuclear bunkers, which can be bombed by B-2 Spirit, the tip of the spear. Launching from bases in Jordan and the UAE, squadrons of F-15 East Strike Eagles roar into the theater. These are the bomb trucks of the operation. Each F-15 is heavily laden with GDMs and small-diameter bombs. Interestingly, it can carry up to 19 GDAMs or 28 small-diameter weapons. While the B-2s hit the deep bunkers, the F-15s hunt the mobile targets. Their ADSA radars scan the ground for ballistic missile launchers hiding in valleys. Working in pairs, they drop precision bombs on missile convoys, hangars, and secondary command nodes. Once they are Winchester, out of ammo, or low on fuel, they don't go home yet. They connect to this tanker common launch tube that fits into almost any aircraft's existing fuel hatch. They retreat to those tanker tracks established in Phase 1, taking on thousands of pounds of jet fuel in midair before turning back for a second sortie. 2 hours pass each hour. To sustain the pressure, the U.S. Navy's floating air bases enter the fight. Cruising in the Arabian Sea, a carrier strike group turns into the wind. Steam and electromagnetic catapults begin launching aircraft every 30 seconds. F/A-18 Super Hornets launch carrying anti-radiation missiles. Their job is DAD, destruction of enemy air defenses. They are hunting down any surviving radar operators foolish enough to turn their systems on.
Respectfully, yeah, I'm gonna say, I think Israel should be the one taking that one right there. Okay, I don't like our guys being out there in the front lines going after that kind of stuff, because I believe if you're the if you're first in line, you're going to be the first person in line for you know what. And we're the way the Middle East is set up, we're not necessarily on the front lines. America's not on the front lines. Yeah, we have forward deployed bases, but the citizenry is not on the front line. I feel like when that's the case, the other country needs to take more of that risk, you know?
Meanwhile, F-35C Lightning push forward to gather intelligence and strike high-threat targets that the older jets cannot reach. Orbiting far behind them are the E-2D Hawkeyes, the quarterbacks in the sky, managing the massive traffic of hundreds of U.S. jets. By sunrise, the first wave is over. The eyes of the enemy air defense have been blinded by Tomahawks. The heart of the nuclear program has been crushed by B-2s, and the limbs of the missile forces have been severed by F-15 and carrier aircraft. We make original videos from scratch, so please do subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos.
What's the updates? What's the updates?
And let's start with our foreign affairs and defense correspondent, Nick Schifrin. So, Nick, how did this conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran actually start? How did we get to this point?
With an unprecedented decision by President Trump to launch a joint U.S. or Israeli war to collapse the Iranian state. That's really how this started. Israeli and American officials described to me dozens of strikes on dozens of targets around the country. You can see the map there, the largest operation in Israeli history using Israeli jets as well as American Tomahawks and jets. Israel primarily focused on Iran's leadership as well as missiles whose range can target Israel. The U.S. targeted shorter range missiles that can hit U.S. bases and allies. And the single most significant strike targeted the headquarters of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader for the last 37 years. President Trump announced his death and called it, quote, justice for the people of Iran, but also all great Americans and those people from many countries throughout the world that have been killed or mutilated by Khamenei and his gang of bloodthirsty thugs. So this was not the limited strike that was considered by the president or his aides, nor was this even limited to Iran's nuclear or missile program. This is a war to overthrow the Iranian regime, and not quick. The president himself admitted it could be days or weeks before this was done. There's no guarantee of success, and there's no knowing what will happen after that. But even some regional officials who were skeptical of this war before the war started, telling me tonight that now that the U.S. and Israel have started it,
you better finish it.
So, Nick, when it comes to that goal of potential regime change, how are U.S. officials making that case?
So President Trump basically addressed Iranians directly when speaking earlier today, and he said that this is a single opportunity for them, and he admitted it might not be easy for the U.S.
The Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance.
And that's the truth, because you know what? If they don't step up and do this for themselves, they're just going to rebuild. They're going to feel more emboldened. America's going to be able to come through every single time to come and try to rescue you. We try to help you out while helping ourselves, because we're not going to pretend America's doing this all, altruistic and whatnot.
For generations.
Then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed President Trump, speaking directly to the Iranian people.
Do not sit idly by, because soon your moment will come. The moment when you will be required to go out to the streets in your masses, to go out to the streets to complete the task and overthrow the regime of horrors that is embittering your lives.
That is a big ask, of course, Amna and Jeff. 1 month after the regime killed tens of thousands of protesters in the streets.
Tens of thousands. Estimated 30,000 people.
One other thing, a senior administration official spoke to reporters this afternoon and added one additional argument that the U.S. assessed Iran was considering preemptive strikes on all of those U.S. assets in the region, even though those U.S. assets were just only recently deployed.
How has Iran responded to this, both militarily on the ground and then politically from Tehran's leadership?
As you said, it's really an unprecedented response, not only because of the geographic range of the targets, but also the nature of the targets. Let's take a look at this map. Multiple regional officials confirmed to me Iranian strikes on targets in Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And I want to show you two.
And that's what I mean. Kuwait, ally. UAE, ally. Qatar, ally. Saudi Arabia, ally. I believe Jordan's an ally, but I'm not sure. But this is what I was saying before. What we have to remember is that it's not just about, hey, you know, they're making a weapon and they could eventually reach America. It's the fact that all of these countries have you know, trade agreements. They have, you know, mutually defense pacts and stuff like that. And America's the guarantor, you know. So, you know, in the worst case scenario, Iran develops a nuclear weapon and it turns into a North Korea at that point, because we both know they don't care about their own people. That happens. America is going to be able to guarantee anything. Not one bit. Because the second you start using the word nuclear, we're good. It's not going to happen. So this is one of those geopolitical situations where it's not just a clear and identifiable, here's the threat. That's why we did it. It's here's the situation, and to head off a escalating situation in the future where the Middle East is basically closed off and our allies are at the basically whim of the what's the word? At that point, Iran would become a regional power. You know, and that's not what any of those countries in the Middle East really want.
Two specific attacks.
Oh my God.
Look at that. Ooh.
Those attacks from downtown Manama, Bahrain, and before that from Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, the first ever Iranian attacks on residential or hotel targets.
And look at that. And this is what I'm saying. This is what makes you a terrorist, in case a lot of people don't understand this. This is what makes you a terrorist. Because you're not attacking military infrastructure. You're attacking civilian infrastructure. All right now.
From Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, the first ever Iranian attacks on residential or hotel targets on Arab countries that make up the Gulf Cooperation Council. In addition, we've seen missile attacks on Tel Aviv and multiple missile attacks on U.S. bases, although a military official tells me that they've only had minimal damage. Now, before the supreme leader spoke, we heard from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi saying that Iran was still interested in de-escalation, but he warned that the U.S. and Israeli attacks would fail.
You cannot, you know, change this regime because it's you know, it's supported by the people. Yes, there are also people who are complaining, but they are.
Listen, where is this guy at? Because he's on TV. I'm not sure if this was before the attack. I think it's when it says AM, so this is probably when the attack just started over there. I'm assuming. I'm not sure, but you're on TV talking. Man, please, you would not catch me there, not one bit.
Are strong supporters of the regime, of the system at the same time, and then we have a very well established political structure.
And Araghchi highlighted this video, a strike on a school that Iran says killed 100, mostly children. A military official telling me tonight the U.S. is aware of these reports and is investigating.
Nick, meanwhile, what are we seeing in the way of a political response from the rest of the world?
You know, Amna, before this attack, as you and I have talked about, many Gulf countries made it clear to the U.S. that the U.S. could not use their countries for an offensive strike on Iran. But all of those countries today not condemning the U.S. or Israeli strikes, instead condemning the Iranian.
I was like, listen, bruh. You're going to do what you have to do. We just don't want no part of it. You're going to just do what you got to do, man. We'll look the other way and keep our mouth shut.
Iranian counterstrikes, with one exception. The Omani foreign minister, he wrote, quote, active and serious negotiations have yet again been undermined. As for the U.S.'s NATO allies, they are divided today. We heard from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Canada, quote, supports the United States, but French President Emmanuel Macron said that the aggression must stop.
Wow. And this is why the United States is separating from Europe. That right there. That's why the United States is separating from Europe, because this is one of those situations where this is, I believe, a uniquely U.S. interests move. Not solely, because Israel is a part of it, but this is 100% a situation where the United States has more skin in the game and more to lose, because again, all of these countries in the Middle East that are being threatened and at the risk of having issues with Iran, you know, France doesn't have a deal to go over there and protect them. America does. But here is this guy saying, peace and da 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 da. Okay, dude, go home to your husband, man.
We must increase our efforts to resolve these issues through diplomatic channels because no one can believe that the Iranian nuclear issue, ballistic missile activity, and regional destabilization will be resolved simply through strikes.
And the bottom line there, that just shows the uncertainty of what happens next.
Nick Schifrin kicking off our coverage tonight. Nick, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what else is there? What else is going on out there? We need more proof. We need more proof. I don't really believe it's just that, said and done and he's gone. We need a lot more proof. All right, guys, I haven't seen anything else too interesting right now, so I'm going to cut it short here. I'll probably start another one up later on tonight if I come across anything, interesting. But guys, I appreciate you kicking it with me. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.